everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Crispy Kareem. I make videos in which I say my opinion, comment on certain subjects, and get things off my chest. And you've come to listen for some reason, so thank you. I very much appreciate it. If you like what you hear, you should subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and share this channel and video with your loved ones. And if you don't like this video, then chuck some phosphorus at me, because with the groundbreaking alternative thoughts I'm about to dole out here, some might say that I'm possessing and deploying some weapons of mass destruction. So bring on the Tony Blairs of the YouTube comment section, because they're gonna get angry and disagree with me. So this is finally the video I was supposed to bring out nearly 3 months ago. We're on topic, so I'm going to talk about it. So at the time of when I came up with this, there was a lot of outrage on Twitter about this, and I want to talk about it because I think the things that need to be said weren't being said, and what I want to say is too long for Twitter or any other social media really, so I'm going to say it here and put it on YouTube because someone has to. So as we found out at the end of December, there have been some controversial picks for the honour system this year. Among them are Trevor Phillips, a Labour MP who has received backlash for claiming that Muslims don't integrate into British society, and Sarah Khan, a counter-terrorism expert who received criticism from the Muslim community for giving legitimacy to negative stereotypes about Muslims and manifesting it through systemic and institutional means. I'm not going to talk about them in this video, but I think it's important to point this out when introducing the video because it gives some context. These are also some bad people getting knighthoods and recognitions from a government and royal family affiliated institution. So, but what I'm going to talk about is the most controversial pick for this year's on the list, and that is Tony Blair. Da, da, da. Yes, the Prime Minister that's played a significant role in the invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, and oversaw the first proposals for prevent in government. So before I get into that, I'm going to explain what the honour system is, because many people, especially probably those outside the UK, aren't really familiar with it. So from what I found on the UK government's official website is that there's an honours committee in government that decides who should be given honours, like Dame and Sir, etc. I don't know if there are anything else, but they do have to go through the Queen for final approval. The website then goes on to say, honours are given to reward outstanding service and achievement in a given field or area. As part of the nomination process, we try to minimise the risk that prospective candidates have behaved in ways likely to bring system into disrepute. So, in other words, destabilising, invading foreign countries, dropping banned and lethal substances on the communities is completely fine as long as it doesn't harm our system. It's completely okay. So, as I made it clear in my intro, Tony Blair sucks because of the Iraq invasion, which has an unknown death toll in the sense that different sources have varying statistics, with some being quite low, like The Lancet, a medical journal, estimating 600,000 deaths in a 2006 study, which the UK and US governments claimed were exaggerated, whilst Salon estimated it to be 2.4 million. However, I'm mildly skeptical of that number because in that article, which I'll link in the description below, they also talk about the USA waging war in other countries like Kosovo and Bosnia, which a lot of people tend to bring up with the intention of completely ignoring the fact that a lot of anti-Muslim violence was being waged by Serbian Christians that resulted in thousands of brutal deaths, rapes and kidnaps, including over 8,000 killed in the Srebrenica massacre. It really bothers me that these things go actively denied, especially when there has been a resurgence of anti-Muslim violence in Bosnia and Herzegovina, sorry if I mispronounced that, and the other respective regions where the original brutality took place, and the reason people keep denying them is because they treat them as a manufactured pretext for the West to invade a foreign country for God knows what that reason. They want them to become enslaved to the petrodollar empire, blah blah blah. It's another Iraq. It's not enough that Tony Blair and the rest of the Western world invaded Iraq and created so much instability, death, and brutality in the region, though they're reckless through their recklessness. But the fact that so many people mobilized against this with good intentions has ultimately made the tanky ideology mainstream and made genocide denial acceptable and even woke. As a result, anyone outside of Western Europe or North America that wants a peaceful protest against the government for any valid reason is dismissed as a CIA planted colour revolutionist because there's no way we could possibly oppress our own people. No, oppression only comes from the West. Do you see how these people maintain the Orient Occident structure of the world? Our right to self-determination has been stolen by these people that project their hatred of Tony Blair onto us, and that's why I hate Tony Blair so much, and everyone else who gets involved in the anti-war movement genuinely thinks they're going to decolonize the world without actively engaging with activists in those former colonies. That should be enough to convince anyone to hate Tony Blair, but I also want to delve into other reasons why I hate Tony Blair and what harmful policies he enacted to really drill in the point of what an awful PM he was, so that those who defend him can finally STFU and stop doing it. The two things that come to mind are the introduction of tuition fees, which then rose under the Conservative Party, but it's still important to understand that it was Blair who sets out the precedent for the marketisation of higher education, and that's why I'm over £56,000 of debt with no income to pay it off. I mean, the income thing's my fault, but we are in a global recession, and finding a job is really hard when you're not mentally there for it the whole time. And this is one of the policies that well represents Labour's at the time shift, and even now shift towards neoliberal politics and away from properly addressing working class issues and those of other minorities, and protecting the public sector from private interests. As living costs rise to such a significant extent now, it's important to examine the role Tony Blair has played in demobilising people who would organise against privatisation and marginalisation by lowering the standards of what we want and who we want to represent us in the British government. Because we just see this stuff as so normal, the destruction of our public services and skyrocketing living costs is just the way it is now, if you ask any British person. The other reason I hate Tony Blair is because of his responsibility in the creation of the hostile environment in the UK through things like Prevent and other measures that have clamped down on the civil liberties of many people in the UK, especially those from minority backgrounds and those who are politically active in things that the government doesn't like criticising the foreign policy or just really anything. It's how they protect our democracy by not protecting our democracy. It's shooting yourself in the foot democracy wise. It's just an absolute mess in the government created by the ghoul that is Blair. So I'm also going to talk about why I don't like the royal family. I think it's important because the honours is a thing that's heavily rooted in the royal family, and the Brits love it for some reason. I don't particularly like the royal family. I don't know why people do. People claim, oh, they bring tourists and it's a national symbol, and I just don't get it. In my opinion, they're just a rich family living off of taxpayer money without providing any real value to the country, and they're one of the most tangible remnants of a brutal global empire that for centuries exploited and brutalized many different populations around the world, many, if not all of whom, still suffer the long-term effects of said colonialism. Living like that and not providing any tangible value to the country is an indication of how the current system we're experiencing in the UK aims to exacerbate and even celebrate inequality in the UK. Given how attached many people in the UK are to the idea of keeping the royal family for no justifiable reason other than that's how it's always been. Just like when we're justifying voting Tory after being clearly educated on how the Tories are making their lives worse. The royal family is the epitome of class inequality as a part of British culture rather than something to actually, be tackled. There's also issues around racism following the whole scandal regarding Meghan Markle and the baby she would be having with Harry, in terms of discussing what colour the baby would be, as if a mixed race woman who wouldn't stand out in a North African country and a ginger would have anything that wasn't as white as the rest of the family was. I mean, they could have kept quiet and just not said anything, and Harry would still be in that family, and they would have had their miracle white child. I mean, not that being white is that thing to be celebrated, but we're playing devil's advocate here. Or maybe they believe in the one drop rule of racial purity, the one that was enforced during segregation. And then there are those pictures of William and Kate sitting on thrones being carried on the shoulders of Africans. I mean, I think that happened more than once now. I'd rather not show it because that picture looks very humiliating for those guys who are carrying the thrones, and I'm not going to reproduce that on my channel. But most of you have probably seen it anyway. So I think, if Prince William is then going to claim that Africans need to have less children in order to solve climate change, you might run out of people to carry your throne, and people to exploit for your state visits to show the majesty and greatness of Britain among the rest of the world. But that's what the royal family represent to me, and I don't like it. I know this interpretation doesn't apply to everyone, but for me, it just wouldn't make the world any worse if the royal family were to be abolished. I don't care for their cipher as an institution, and I think Britain would be a better place if we did abolish them. I think we would look beyond inequality and class as a cultural thing and rather something that's genuinely problematic and bad for society. So as you can tell by my explanation of the honour system, Tony Blair has received the royal seal of approval, which basically means he's untouchable now. Not that the anti-Corbynists were going to allow any fair criticism of him to happen anyway, because at least he got elected. And that's more important than principles or actually getting things done. This doesn't in any way mean that everyone who's received the honours title is a bad person, but given the background behind it and what kind of people can get it, I don't see it as a judgment for whether a person should be venerated by society, as evidenced by Tony Blair and the other two people receiving one, despite how much controversy they've garnered due to what their career has entailed. I think the link between them comes in when we analyse what is symbolised by this knighthood. Tony Blair is being rewarded for his services to this nation, shows what this institution wants for the nation, and it's all about exerting power over people in poorer countries through foreign policy that many would liken to imperialism, which was once something done by the British royal family worldwide in its empire and brutal ways. By giving someone like Tony Blair a knighthood, what this organisation is doing is continuing the royal family's symbolism of celebrating inequality and marginalisation and solidifying it as a part of British culture so that it doesn't seem to be anything that actually needs to be solved. And for that reason, I'm glad that Tony Blair was given a knighthood, because it shows how corrupt the entire system truly is and what the ruling institutions value and aim for. An ordered society where people are marginalised for their culture, racial and religious background, so that these divisions can be sown and sowed and exploited to maintain the hierarchy through dangerous nationalist belief systems and the power at the of the people at the top get rich from it because enough people consent to the system to keep us up. So just thinking about this has also made me realise that I don't like Jeremy Corbyn that much. I know people are going to get confused, but I'm going to explain why. I always thought to myself that, okay, well, he had so many progressive policies to help end the issues that exist in the UK, but his approach to foreign policy, especially in Syria, was a massive flaw for me. But at the time, I was willing to tolerate it. This was even after the GE, because before the GE in 2019, I didn't know about that stuff. But after seeing how centrists would write about Blair's progressive policies and how it's ridiculous for us to focus on the invasion of Iraq when he's done so many good things, I realised I need to hold Corbyn to the same level of scrutiny as Blair, or I would sound like that when defending him. Not intervening when it is possible to stop an actual humanitarian crisis caused by a dictator who used chemical weapons on his people is reprehensible, and it should make you a target for criticism by the general public, and that's just why I don't like Corbyn or Blair. So that's my video. Thank you to my new the microphone that I can now film stuff on my laptop. If you can't see my face, it's not really a problem because you know it's not really worth looking at anyway. Um, but nonetheless, I did get this for £30 from Argos. I need to spray this now because I have COVID and I haven't recovered yet. I tested positive last week, but it's not been that bad because I am triple vaxxed, so please do get the vaccine. And I thank you for watching. Again, like this video, subscribe, share with your loved ones, and I will see you in the next upload.